morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Public and Community Safety PDSP. My name is Councillor Craig Meek and I'm the chair of this committee. This meeting is being broadcast live and recorded and recorded on the Council's YouTube channel, and a recording will be available on the Council's website afterwards. Today I'm being assisted by Julie Whitelaw and colleagues from Committee Services and IT Services. Attendees may join this meeting remotely from another location. Please note everything that's said while microphones are live will be broadcast and recorded. Therefore, members are asked to be polite, respectful and patient. There is more information, including a privacy statement about meeting arrangements, on the Council's website. So moving on to today's agenda, so apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from John Sivis from the Joint Forum of Community Councils.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Macaulay.
Just a transparency statement. I work for Angela Constance in her constituency office, but it's of no relation to anything she does in the Cabinet.
Perfect, thank you. Any others? Nope, that's perfect. So the order of business today will be slightly as per the agenda, but slight amendment is the two final papers, the police paper and the fire paper, so that's item number 12 and 13, are for information only, because police don't attend every other meeting anyway, so they two papers are for information only, so we'll take them as read. Is everybody happy with that? That's grand. So moving on to item number 4, the minutes. So could we confirm the draft minutes of this meeting of the 2nd of December 2025? Perfect, thank you. And then again of the same committee for the 4th of February 2026. Thank you very much. So that takes us to our first item of business, the Justice Performance Report Quarter 3 of 2025-26. And I'm going to pass over to Pauline Cochrane to take us through that report. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide the panel with details on the performance for the Quarter 3 Justice Indicators, which are the responsibility of the panel. Section D2 sets out the overview of the 4 performance indicators in scope, showing all 4 sitting in green. Section D5 details the progress on the 1 transformation action which is relevant to the panel. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for taking us through the report. Any questions? Nope. Any comments? I'd just like to say it's great. Obviously, all the indicators being green, and people don't realise a lot of hard work goes behind the scenes to make sure everything kind of comes together and make sure it's running according to schedule. So thank you very much. We're happy to note the recommendations of the paper. Perfect, thank you. So item number 6, the Scottish Government National Overview MAPA Annual Report of 2024-25, and it's yourself again, Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform the panel on the recently published Scottish Government Multi-Agency Public Protection Arrangements Overview Report, known as MAPA. It covers the period of the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025, and it is a national report. Section D1 provides background information and details the 10 MAPA regions in Scotland. Section D2 provides the key national MAPA developments, and Section D3 provides details on the local MAPA developments noted in the report that feature in West Lothian. Section D4 notes that there are no examples from West Lothian in the MAPA in operation section of the report, but the appendix contains the full report. In conclusion, there were no specific recommendations for West Lothian Justice Services. West Lothian have in place a strong multi-agency partnership assisted by the co-location of all services and an effective senior officer group, which is good oversight of local MAPA arrangements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adamson.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Pauline. I can't remember where I'd read the actual figures, but my question is in relation to 2.8 on page 4. What I'm trying to find out is, if a person changes their name, how does that work? Can they be referred to as, for instance, previously known as such and such? Or would that not be permitted? I mean, know that what I'd read was that a large number of sex offenders, registered sex offenders, change their names. and I'm just wondering how that works moving along. You know, how's that dealt with, basically?
Polly?
Thank you, Chair. So this is dealt with. This is a police scheme, so it would be the police that would look into the questions if people made an application into the scheme. But the scheme doesn't just go on names; it would go on dates of birth. There's other identifying characteristics that would identify the person. So a name change wouldn't really; they would still show up in the scheme.
Right, okay, so they wouldn't be able to hide as a result of having this?
No, because especially if they've got licence conditions, etc., there'll be notifications that they'll have to adhere to. So there will be individual situations, but it would be the police. There is other identifiers other just than the name that would identify them through the scheme and the application process.
Right, okay, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any comments? Nope. We're happy to accept the recommendations of the report. Thank you. That takes us on to the next item, item number 7, 16 Days of Action campaign, and it's over to yourself, Pauline.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update the panel on the activity and impact of the West Lothian 16 Days of Action campaign, which ran from the 25th of November to the 10th of December 25. Section D1 sets out the background to the campaign and the collated activity report. Section D2 provides an update on the planning undertaken and the important role played by survivors. Section D3 notes the level of multi-agency activities which took place, with full details contained in Appendix 1. West Lothian have a strong multi-agency approach to the 16-day campaign, resulting in a wide offering of activities with significant community impact from partners. We have one of our partners here today who's going to tell you more about the work that they do in West Lothian. The panel are asked to note the content of the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Macaulay.
Thanks for the report. It's really interesting to see the figures. Is this from Meta, Facebook, the stats?
Yeah, it's from all our social media.
From all the social media. I just wanted to ask, I know that when you put out images of our workers and supporting it, do they get more interaction than the other sort of more generic ones?
Sorry, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding.
Well, when you put out our male workers, when you put out stuff on them, how they're supporting this, is there more interaction with them, or do you find that there's more interaction with more generic posts?
So I think we've definitely had a lot more interaction with our partnership postings, I would suggest. The 16 Days March and Rally gets a lot of social media reactions, but our partnership posts get a lot of social media responses as well, I would say. So yeah, I think the collective posts are more responded to.
And just wanted to ask about the shares, because I know you've got reactions, comment and shares kind of grouped together there. In terms of the shares, do you think there's any specific ones that are really kind of, because it's hard to tell from this what they actually are, is there a good number of shares for important messages, so we're really promoting the right partners to speak to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have really honed our social media campaign this year, so we did get a lot more responses than we had the year previous. And I think that is because we're learning all the time. So we review, part of the activity report being brought together is the review and analysis of all the stuff. So we'll take the ones that got most interest in this year's campaign. We will repeat and replicate some of them. We did a population survey as part of the 16 Days campaign as well, and we're currently analysing all the reports to see what pockets and what parts of the community and how they would like us to interact to gain as much raising awareness as we possibly can. So we take all this collated data together, and that will inform our social media campaign this year.
Well, the messages that didn't quite make it this year in terms of actually getting the right kind of hits on social media, will they be readdressed and repackaged? Because they are important messages. It's not about stopping them, but will they still be going out?
Yes, absolutely. And I think there was discussion about starting some of the messaging earlier rather than having it all squashed into the 16 days. So I think definitely that has all been looked at by our comms team. So we have a comms strategy that will be updated for this year's campaign.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? For me, I would just like to say thank you to you, the team, and all the partners that are taking part in the 16 Days of Action. 16 Days of Action is a vital tool for raising the awareness, but the awareness isn't just, and the messaging shouldn't just be for these 16 days. It should be every day. But the 16 days of action, obviously condensed into that period, obviously raises awareness more. But I think it's important of all of us around the table here today, we've all got the responsibility to continue that message in 365 days a year. And we're about to obviously hear from one of the partners today about the importance of keeping that awareness at the forefront of everybody's mind. So thank you, everybody. Councillor Macaulay.
Just to reiterate what I said already, but this is, there's an awful lot of work that goes on, and it's not just something you plan the month before. There's an awful lot of planning going on, and just really want to say thank you for the level of detail you've given in terms of social media and all that. I know it might not mean a lot to some people, but to me, to see the stats is actually really, really helpful. And it also shows that we could be doing more. We could be sharing some of the posts that perhaps aren't getting the right traction. So maybe, it might be worth flagging some of these things with councillors in the future and saying, can you share these posts? Because it is important that we all take part and do our bit, because it's a very important message. So thank you for this.
Councillor Adamson.
Thanks, Chair. And as they say, ditto for the last two comments. I don't think people realise how much work goes into what's just showing in this little 4 or 5 bits of paper. I'm also particularly pleased to see that you do acknowledge that there is also male domestic abuse as well. And I think it's important to remember that, to highlight it, because there is a stigma attached to that. So I welcome that especially. But a lot of hard work and a lot of highly motivated people, and as long as the message keeps going out, we can never stop anything, but we can certainly raise awareness. And as long as people know that there is help available for people, and that they are made aware of the various different things, it's going to make a huge difference. So thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you. Any other comments? Nope. That's grand. Are we happy to accept the recommendations of the report? Thank you. So that takes us on to item number 8, a presentation from West Lothian Women's Aid, and delighted to welcome Elena Brown along today to present that report and give us more information about Women's Aid. Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to come along and explain more about our work. We are a charitable organisation. I'm the Chief Executive of West Lothian Women's Aid, and we work very much at the coalface with vulnerable women and children who are experiencing domestic abuse. Our real overarching mission is to empower women, children and young people towards recovery and to be safe after domestic abuse, to be able to rebuild their lives. So as a charity, we are a team of 11 women. We are very much value-based in everything that we do, and our values are around safety, honesty and empowerment. And we take those core values into our services, into our staff recruitment and into our work with women and with children. We were established in 1980, so we have quite a proven track record of providing high quality services, both domestic and trauma-informed support services. And we deliver the best services possible, really informed by a gender-based analysis that domestic abuse is caused by gender inequality and a consequence of gender inequality. So just to give you a flavour of our service use, this was for the last full financial year, and the total number of referrals into our service was over 1,000, with a total of 575 individual women supported. So just to explain that statistic a little bit, that Obviously, when we are responding to a referral, the woman or child could benefit from more than one service. So that is why there is a difference between the number of referrals and the total number supported. It's a really interesting statistic that nearly 80% of the referrals that we receive are self-referrals. These could be women reaching out for the very first time, still finding themselves in a very unsafe situation or experiencing the impacts of historic domestic abuse. So we do provide a number of services, just a whistle-stop tour here because the next few slides detail a little bit more about each service, but the statistics you see on the screen there are the activities. So 612 calls were made to our support line, and it's a very sort of easy figure to say, but some of these calls are actually very, very complex and lengthy calls that lead to a number of different support options for women. So we're uniquely placed to be able to intervene at that point where people reach out. 26 face-to-face appointments held, so that would be after a call that people feel that they might need to come in and see somebody face-to-face. We run what is called an IDA service, that stands for Independent Domestic Abuse Advocacy Service, and that service is for women who are assessed at very high risk of danger or even murder. So we're really, really proud to be able to offer that service because it puts the service user at the heart of the actions that are taken and of her care, really looking at what is right for her at whatever point she is on her journey. We supported a total of 98, so that is divided between women and children through our safe accommodation. We have a number of safe accommodation options throughout West Lothian. And we're really proud of the work that we do within our communities in terms of different groups that I'll talk to you a little bit more about shortly. But over the last financial year, we supported 58 women to attend the Freedom Programme, which is a course really designed to look at a perpetrator's pattern of behaviour and look at her recovery and the impacts of the abuse that she's experienced. And really looking at responsibilities and choices that a perpetrator has made to abuse. We supported 30 women, children and young people who were not within our accommodation but reached out for support. So these might be women and children that are in hotels, temporary accommodation, or still living in the home. We have an in-house bespoke counselling service, and 52 women over the last 12 months were supported to use that service. Follow-on is resettlement support. So 38 women we were pleased to be able to support to transition from our accommodation into the communities. That's challenging because of the housing situation in West Lothian and indeed across the whole of Scotland, but we did support 38 to move on. 93 children and young people were supported through our Children and Young Persons Service, and we obtain additional funding to be able to provide a summer club, which is greatly loved and valued by both mums and the children. It's a very safe space, but supporting children to link into communities and giving children with additional challenges the chance to be kids, the chance to play, and the chance to connect and just have fun over the summer. And, you know, women and kids say that that's really nice because they wouldn't be able to afford these opportunities otherwise. So it's a great service that we offer there. And it's not just for our clients. We take referrals in from other agencies for children that are vulnerable due to domestic abuse. And finally, we provide a 24/7 out-of-hours service for women and children who are living within our accommodation. And over the last year, we handled 101 emergency calls. And that can be for things, perhaps they feel unsafe, a perpetrator's maybe tracked them, or their mental health has deteriorated and they feel that they can't wait till the next working day. I think it's important to highlight the vulnerabilities of our clients. So understandably, mental health and wellbeing challenges every woman that we support and child presents with certainly emotional health challenges, mental health and wellbeing challenges, directly because of the experience and multiple losses that they've experienced due to domestic abuse. Very concerned about their safety, obviously, and at risk or, in fact, experiencing poverty, homelessness, the threat of homelessness, or having to leave their house due to safety reasons is a big issue for families that we're supporting. Our families, our women and children are definitely experiencing, they're in crisis when they reach out to us, and they are experiencing multiple disadvantage with the extensive losses. So just to give you a flavour of some of those losses, that could be for the child, a loss of friendships, a loss of extended family members, having to move schools, a loss of the family pet, a loss of toys and belongings if they're having to move for safety reasons and quickly. And for women, it could be a loss of employment. They're having to move to be the sole carer for their child or move through safety reasons or through ill health because of the abuse that they've experienced. And obviously, if a woman and child find themselves through the homeless route, they can be in our accommodation for up to 2 years now, which is a very, very long time and very challenging because 12 of our spaces are in houses of multiple occupation. And what that means in reality is that the woman and child have a bedroom that they're sharing, but that they're sharing together. But they share with up to 3 other families, the kitchen and living room space. So there's a real lack of privacy and challenge there for families. On the plus side, some really supportive friendships and bonds can be formed. So when women are moving into new communities, they really are feeling very excluded and isolated. And if you put the trauma and disadvantage on top of that, you have a picture of real vulnerability. And never to undermine that the fact of post-separation abuse is a huge amount of the work that we do is supporting women through the journey from post-separation abuse, which can go on for years and years and years after they have ended the relationship. And many women are lone parenting or tackling challenges with being involved in the criminal and civil justice procedures. So a wee bit more about our services then. The support line, the telephone information line is available Monday to Friday. We are registered with the Telephone Helplines Association and we provide a safe space. It's really that first point where we will touch a client wherever they are on their journey, exploring options, and we're giving real practical information around safety, wellbeing and next steps. We work very closely with other agencies and make appropriate referrals to other specialist services as and when needed and agreed by the client. The client support appointments, again, is that really what is done on the support line, but offering that face-to-face guidance. And it may be that it's not safe for a woman to contact us, in which case we will agree to meet at a mutually agreeable community location. That might be in a quiet cafe or in a community centre. In terms of our IDA service, the Independent Domestic Abuse Advocacy Service, what I've already explained is it's really about ensuring that survivors' voice and wishes are central to the process, and our IDA will meet with the client face to face and really build that relationship. It's not a one-off meeting, it's a journey of support. And when we enter the multi-agency meetings that you perhaps hear back from here, so the Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference, MATAC, the DMF, it's really around what we can do in terms of risk reduction, advocating, what does the woman actually want to happen. It's so important in domestic abuse cases because there's been such a loss of control and a loss of choice in that family's life, that woman's life and that vulnerable child. The IDA's role is to really coordinate with other agencies in creating a mutually agreed safety plan. And so in terms of families that are at high risk, it's really important that that emotional and practical support recognises that it's a multi-agency responsibility to keep these high risk women and children safe. In terms of our safe accommodation, I've referred to that already. So we have 12 spaces which are in houses of multiple occupation, but we also have partnered with local housing associations to be able to offer 7 self-contained houses. And that's been a really important development for us over the past sort of 3 to 4 years. We've been able to do that because it means for the first time that women and children can bring their pets, that we can take women that have perhaps more chaotic mental health needs that the shared accommodation wouldn't be a suitable resource for them, and also women that are engaging in drug or alcohol recovery programs. So it's been a really, really positive development for us. And as the slide says, we really view the safe home as a basic human need, and we provide more than a safe home, of course, because anybody that is within our accommodation has a specialist support from caseworkers. Separate caseworker is allocated for the women's support needs throughout her stay and beyond into resettlement, and also for the child or children. In terms of our group work, very much cornerstone of what we do. So certainly within the last year, we've really diversified our range of programmes to really help women and children rebuild their confidence and self-esteem. And the peer support is a massive positive in terms of sharing experiences, but also increasing knowledge and understanding around domestic abuse. And that might sound strange because obviously they have experienced domestic abuse, but it's so isolating for each and every individual woman. So to be able to have that safe space where they can connect with others without judgment who understand their experiences is really powerful. So we do offer the Freedom Programme. That is a programme delivered by, the materials are designed by Pat Craven. We offer the Freedom Programme in a number of different unique ways. So not just within office hours, we offer weekend intensives for women that are working, and also online evening programmes. We're trying to reduce as many barriers as possible. Some women find it too difficult to physically attend a group, so we'll prefer the online option. On My Life, we really listened to what women were telling us, and they were telling us that after freedom, they felt that wasn't enough. They wanted to really look at how to continue to reclaim themselves, to build their confidence, and to look at how they can care for themselves better. So On My Life is a 10-week powerful trauma-informed group, and we are on to our 4th On My Life group, and it's evaluating very strongly and very well. And we're really excited that On My Life are actually developing resources for younger women. And we feel that that's really, really important in terms of the preventative work that we feel that needs to be done across Scotland and within West Lothian. So DART we brought to Scotland, working in partnership with the NSPCC. So DART stands for Domestic Abuse Recovering Together. We are delighted to be the first partners to be offering this in Scotland. It offers an environment where language is where women and children can talk about what has happened. And that can be really, really difficult for mums to talk about the hurting in the home that's happened, to talk about the abuse that she has experienced and that the children will have witnessed. It is an impactful programme. It works with mum and child separately, and then creates opportunities each week to bring mum and child together. And it's really touching because at the last session, the children and mums write a letter to the next course participants. And it's really, really powerful. They really feel that the value of this programme. Early days for us at West Lothian Women's Aid as yet. We are running our 2nd DART programme and delighted to have been supported by the NHS in terms of funding to offer our 3rd programme as we move into the new financial year. Empower You and Boys Only is preventative work that we are doing in high schools with S4s to S6s. Boys Only is a resource that was designed by our partners in Women's Aid South Lanarkshire, created by a group of boys and young men who had survived domestic abuse. And Empower You aims to build confidence and understanding healthy relationships and talk to young girls and boys about what boundaries are in relationships. So a little bit more about that later. Our counselling service, absolutely free of charge. Clients are assessed, they're triaged, they're allocated on clinical need. They're seen face to face within our support room. Clients have said it's really important that it's hosted within Women's Aid. They feel safe coming there. And we offer sessions over Zoom or the phone, depending on circumstances of clients. And we have just started, again, based on client feedback, group counselling, because isolation has been a big issue raised in the individual counselling sessions, and there's been an appetite there from women who are perhaps on the waiting list still to be allocated for counselling or have finished their counselling to receive some more support within a group. Partnership work, gender-based violence we see as a real community problem, and so it's only by working with other agencies, as we've heard through the brilliant work that's being done through 16 days, that we feel that will deliver the best outcomes for women and children. So we are involved in a lot of different partnerships. So the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme, West Lothian Women's Aid sit on the decision-making forum as to what should go forward, what the victim should be informed about in relation to her history of her current partner. We're involved in MARAC, both in the chairing role and the screening group, and in MATAC. We're a key member of the West Lothian Gender-Based Violence Committee and really passionate and supportive of the brilliant work that's going on in West Lothian. And we have been involved over the last year with preventative work with Police Scotland, and that has involved giving inputs to 4th to 6th year students with colleagues in the police around what is gender-based violence, and really talking to kids about how to stay safe online. We have been offering a specialist financial abuse project with the Citizens Advice Bureau, again a pilot project funded by the Scottish Government, where we have a specialist financial advisor in-house. It has been really successful, sadly coming to an end. It was just a 3 to 4 month project, and the goal was that we would support 15 women. We've had to close the referrals at 21, and so the referrals, a number of referrals in that very short time, have exceeded our ability to be able to deliver. This is around the degree of financial abuse and coerced debt that exists as part of the problem of domestic abuse. So we are working very closely with CAB to try and secure ongoing funding for that programme, because it's been really, really vital for the cases that we have supported to have a dedicated worker, because there's a lot of complexity in dealing with debt, coerced debt, and advocating on behalf of women to debt agencies. We collaborate on all campaign activities with partners, and we are really proud to support best practice, so how partner agencies are responding to safeguarding women and children, because we are now an accredited organisation in delivering the International Safe and Together training to partner agencies. Leads us nicely on to Safe and Together. There's 3 options. So we deliver a 1 hour briefing, really designed to give a very quick overview to commissioners of what this approach is and why the organisation should invest in the approach and the difference that it will make to people working in the field, but also vitally to women and children in terms of outcomes for them. Again, we provide a 1 day overview, a bit more in detail. I did a 1 day overview last week to nursery staff So that was commissioned by health, nursery staff and staff that were working in education. It was very, very well received. It is independently evaluated by the Safe and Together Institute, and the feedback is always positive, and that those who attend the one-day overview always want to be put forward for the Core 4, and it is very much a resource issue for the respective organisations. Safe and Together Core 4 training is really around making sure that our practice is domestic abuse informed, and that we are not victim blaming, that we are holding perpetrators to account and intervening with perpetrators as fathers. And by bolstering the non-abusive parents' efforts in terms of how we intervene and support, obviously creates safer and better outcomes for the child. So our impact then of all these services, I'm sure you'll be interested to know. So 49 women, 49 children supported through safe accommodation last year. And to evaluate, we ask clients during the time they're supported, do you feel safer? Safety is at the core of everything that we do. Do you feel safer as a result of us working, supporting you? And we were happy to hear that 95% of clients said they felt safer. 5% said somewhat. And of course, that could be depending on what point they are in their journey, depending on the external circumstances, what's going on for them. How is the perpetrator behaving? Are they still experiencing post-separation abuse? And we then asked clients, how would you say the support has improved your overall well-being? And we found 80% of the clients answered most definitely, 20% said somewhat. And we then asked clients if they would say our support has helped to improve their financial situation. So these are really the three main areas of interest for a lot of our support. The financial situation, again, this was the one where there was a lower percentage. There is around 60 say definitely, 30 somewhat, and the not at alls at that point, where, because we did do a bit of a deeper dive into why that was a not at all, and at that point they felt it wasn't relevant to them. So perhaps, they had just come in, or perhaps they were at the end of their journey. So we have a bit of a deep dive into those statistics. Some of the quotes on the presentations, we always ask, additional comments. What can we do better? Do you have any suggestions? I was first in a shared accommodation, then I was offered a self-contained house. All accommodations were clean, comfortable and safe. Made me feel I have a temporary home, staff very supportive. All contact with Women's Aid was excellent. Everyone was approachable and kind. So it's nice to hear positive feedback. In terms of the resettlement support, we supported 23 women and 15 children. Again, we asked, did you feel safer as a result of working with us? Resettlement's really important. It's actually a really vulnerable time for women where the risk increases. They may re-engage with the perpetrator because they are coming out of what is a supported community and going in to live independently. And whilst we do offer resettlement support, it does have to be timelined because we are a fairly small staff team. 100% of clients did say they felt safer as a result of us working with them. Again, in relation to wellbeing, 100% said that they felt that their overall mental health and wellbeing had improved, which is great to hear. Financial situation was higher for those on resettlement. Now, that doesn't surprise me because we can access quite a few different grants from trusts and foundations or support with rent deposit schemes when the woman and child are ready to move on. So 90% of clients said the financial situation had definitely improved, and 10% had said it had improved somewhat. So no magic wand, still a real challenge in relation to finances, as you would probably anticipate within the current economic climate. Again, really supportive comments, so much help over a difficult time, and I can't thank you all enough. Our outreach service, so this is women not in our accommodation. We were able to support 17 women and 13 children. We found that 90% of clients said they felt safer as a result of our work. And we asked the same questions in relation to well-being, and we have 100% in relation to well-being, the chart on the right. In terms of financial situation, we had lower results in terms of outreach. So we had 40% saying most definitely improved, 40% improved somewhat, and 20% saying not applicable to their situation at this time. Lower numbers, again, looking at the figures, could be depending on where they are in their support with us. Group work, we evaluate group work differently. So during that period, we ran 5 groups with a total of 50 attendees and 1 online group with 8 attendees. So we measure anxiety before and after attending a group, understanding of domestic abuse, self-confidence, empowerment, critically confidence in achieving a future healthy relationship, and feelings of isolation. So the before is the blue and after is the purple. Delighted to see reductions in anxiety, increases in understanding of domestic abuse, and increased self-confidence and feelings of empowerment, all really positive. Increase in confidence in achieving a healthy future relationship, and a decrease in feelings of isolation. Our counselling service, 52 women were offered counselling support through the year. We try and offer up to a minimum of 14 sessions, but we can then extend by mutual agreement. We asked how suitable the delivery of the counselling was, and 100% of clients stated they felt that how they received counselling was ideal for them and their circumstances. We try to be really person-centred and give women that we support as much choice as possible. We asked clients if they felt they got their first session quick enough. 70% said yes, and a real challenge for us is we are operating a waiting list for the counselling service, and 30% of women said no, they did not feel they were seen quick enough due to this waiting list being in operation. We asked the clients how many counselling sessions they engaged with, and 50% said between 6 and 10. The other 50% had upwards of 10 sessions. And clinical outcomes, all clients demonstrated a reliable clinical improvement in well-being, which is obviously important that the counselling service is achieving what it sets out to do in terms of improvements to anxiety and depression. Some quotes there from service users. I was very nervous to start with, but talking through it has really helped. And I feel more confident in myself and aware of what to look out for in future relationships. So really important that we offer that safe space and choice, because group work is not for everyone. And similarly, one-to-one is not for everyone. So the IDA service was interesting for us in that 83 clients were referred into the service, but only 23 of those 83 consistently engaged with the service. Some would drop in and out. So the lack of engagement we determined was for a variety of different reasons. So firstly, that no follow-up was required from the MARAC referral, and that the client perhaps wished to remain within the relationship at this time, so we couldn't continue to evaluate due to safety risks for the women. We asked clients if they felt that the support from the service has improved their overall well-being and safety, and we were happy to report back really that 100% of those engaged said they did feel safer, and that 80% felt that the support had helped them with their well-being, with 20% stated it helped somewhat at where they were on their journey. Did they feel listened to and their thoughts and wishes respected throughout the process? 100% said yes. I think that's really important when you're promoting an advocacy service. And did they feel that the MARAC structure provided any additional support? So we had just under 70% had said yes, and the remaining had said they didn't know, which is an area that we're going to be looking at in terms of improvement in the future with colleagues. And finally, we asked these clients who are obviously at risk of significant harm or indeed murder, what is useful to share with us in terms of the services that they had. And the bottom one sticks out to me, that I was really struggling with court processes. The support from Women's Aid made this feel less scary. This is the stuff you don't think about, like getting in and out of the courts safely. So it just shows the nuances that we possibly don't think about when we're offering services. That was the most important thing to that woman. In terms of our preventative work, what we see in the MARAC space, alarmingly, is that survivors and perpetrators are getting younger. It's not uncommon for us to discuss within the MARAC space 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, and some of these are repeat victims and repeat perpetrators, which is a great concern. So our view is that we need to be in the schools, we need to be doing preventative work to provide learning opportunities for school children, and to look at attitudes and behaviours of concern with boys and girls in a constructive way. So we were delighted to team up with Police Scotland, and we reached over 450 children throughout the year across a number of high schools, and we obtained feedback from the kids using a QR code feedback, and they were scored out of 10. And we were really happy to establish that the majority of those pupils felt their understanding of gender-based violence had vastly improved following the input. Also that the consequences of perpetrating gender-based violence, that also increased, because obviously we're educating about choices in terms of different behaviours. So these were some quotes from the children. I think all years should be given this talk. I think it was amazing. It was interesting and informative. It gave me an understanding and made me feel safe. It was very good, and I learned a lot of information I didn't know before. And this was just nice to hear after living a lot of my life watching domestic abuse in my house. It was really nice to hear that there was help out there. And actually, what we did find when we had done the inputs to the schools was that we had a number of children who reached out for help and support in their own right through our services. Our Boys Only programme is designed for boys aged 11 and up, and it gives them a safe space to explore what it is like growing up as a young boy, a young man. Talks about concepts such as the man box, so what it is like, what is societal expectations of you growing up to be a man, gender expectations, looking at healthy behaviour against unhealthy behaviour, challenging some of the current role models we have in our society, and looking at what their role is in challenging inequality. So giving them a safe space about what type of boy, what type of man do they want to grow up? How do they want to grow up treating girls and women? So during that period, this is a new development for us. So we ran 2 groups attended by 11 boys, and the groups were held over 6 face-to-face sessions. And to evaluate, we asked a series of questions. So we asked, what were your top 3 sessions in the Boys Only programme and why? So we had the introduction, and we had a session on my hashtag, and looking after me. So the learnings were what they would change. I would treat women more kind and respect them more. These are the children's words. Yes, I feel different about women, and yes, attitudes and ways I behave and speak. Now, these were boys that were identified by pupil support as education having initial concerns about how they were behaving within their interpersonal relationships. We asked, has this support made you understand the importance of supporting women and girls in your life? And can you give an example? And these are some of the quotes there. Yes, without them, men would be lost. I will protect women in every situation. Yes, stop harassment towards females. And the way sisters or niece are treated, I want them to be treated well. We asked, what did you like about your workers' approach? I like this one. All you were respectful to us, and we're down to also have banter. And I think it's really important to meet children where they're at, to be able to use language that kids can relate to, and to be able to have current and relevant debate with children. Very patient and kind. They've been very good. And we asked, what would you say to a boy / man who was thinking about starting this programme? And they told us, try it, it's really good. Make sure you listen, pay attention and show up. And it's a great experience, and it helps you understand what women are actually going through. And finally, we asked boys to make a pledge at the end to support the women and girls that they know in their life. And some of the pledges were there, not to disrespect them by treating them like an item, rather respect them instead. I would always, every single time, protect my mum, no matter the situation, because I wouldn't let anyone touch her because she's the most important woman in my life. A couple of other pledges there I'll let you read. So last but not least, our children and young persons service, a total of 93 children supported during the last financial year. And we asked those that could provide feedback whether they felt safer during their time working with us. And 95% of children said they did, and 5% advised they felt somewhat safer. We asked children if they felt a bit better in terms of their emotions, and 95% of children aged 4+ said that they definitely felt better because of our support and activities. And we asked these children if they felt there was anything done particularly well, and they said, I like that my worker does the worksheets with me to help improve my learning and feelings. So our children's workers go out to schools, and schools provide a neutral space for the children to meet one-to-one with the workers, which is really important. My worker made me feel safe and was someone we could all let out to, taking me out of class and school or house and getting fresh air, helping me get stuff for my new room. It's just all the really sort of obvious stuff, isn't it? And thank you for all you do for my family, and thank you for helping me learn. So that's the end of my presentation, but I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have or any comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Alina, and thanks for that fantastic presentation and giving us a run through of all the work that you do. In terms of the support, so you'd mentioned about it being time limited, and I would imagine that'll probably alone heighten anxieties, thinking, okay, what if I still need it after that time limited? So because you work with partners, do you find that after you've maybe worked with that person for that period, are you able to then signpost them? Or because you have worked with them, does that kind of put them to the bottom of a list for another partner?
It depends. We do have some challenges in terms of women that are in supported accommodation that have mental health needs, that by those services they're dropped to lower on the waiting list for support. That is a current concern, because those agencies recognise that we're providing support, but whilst we're providing emotional support, we're providing expertise in domestic abuse and gender-based violence and not mental health. To specifically answer your question, so the support being time limited, I was referring to the resettlement support, which the time is for up to 12 weeks. So during that time, we would hope to be able to really support women to make local community links, whether it's mum and baby classes or, further education. If there was, an additional need, then yes, we would refer on. We also have an open door policy. So say, for example, risk changed or a woman's circumstances changed, they could phone up or be re-referred by a partner that was working with them back into our services, and we would reassess.
Perfect, thank you. And is there any barriers to attending group work in terms of finances or anything like that, or is it totally free at the point of access?
Yes, it is free at the point of access. When we first brought the Freedom Programme to West Lothian, we consulted with women in using that service, and transport, just because of how West Lothian is geographically, it's very, there's pockets of urban areas, but there's pockets of real rural areas. So transport and cost and time and being able to get to group was cited as a challenge. So we do provide transport, and we also provide childcare. With the lone parenting challenges, a lot of women couldn't attend the groups because they've got young babies. So we provide childcare and transport, and all groups are free of charge.
That's grand. And you also mentioned, and we talk about this quite a lot in the council, about housing supply having its impact on you. In terms of your supply or access to housing, I'd imagine you'd mentioned about making links with housing providers, etc. What's your suggestions on trying to overcome that and accessing that?
Yes, it's a difficult question. What I would say is that a woman who is living within our temporary accommodation shouldn't be ranked lower in the scale than somebody who is in hotel and B&B. It's a transient situation for a woman and child that have experienced significant trauma, and it's not trauma informed for them to remain in that environment for the length of time that they are remaining in that environment. And also, depending on where they are in their journey, they may not need that support that we are offering. So then we have a situation where we're receiving inquiries for that space, but because there's a lack of move on options, that's a challenge. So, that pushes us more into an outreach, or women having to maybe look at accommodation out of area. Some of the women that we've supported within safe accommodation have chosen to move out of the local authority area. And it's because of different housing stocks through other housing associations. So it is a real challenge. I know that it's not just West Lothian that are challenged in this way. I don't have the answer, whether it's bringing empty homes back into, circulation or continuing to build more social housing. But what I can say is that, I think the level of trauma, the families that we support aren't just experiencing homelessness. And I don't say that lightly, because anyone that's experiencing homelessness, of course, that's a very, very difficult situation. But when you have that trauma and loss, and to recover from, I feel very strongly that priority should continue, even if they're in our safe accommodation.
That's grand, thank you. Councillor Macaulay.
Just want to ask, you touched slightly on the work you're doing in schools in terms of support staff are recognising children with certain behaviours that you're obviously going in and working with. Is that increasing, do you think, in terms of the identification of children of that kind of mindset?
We're early with our work in schools, and so I think when you raise awareness of something, inquiries then increase. So, I think that we're very concerned in Women's Aid about the misogynistic role models that are out there for young boys, and that some of those attitudes we are seeing. And we're also similarly concerned about girls and how they don't believe, that it's okay to have personal boundaries and to fit a certain image. So there's vulnerabilities on both sides, and I think we definitely, Women's Aid believe that we definitely need to be working with both sexes, and stop treating young boys like perpetrators, let's get into the schools and speak to them whilst there are some unhealthy behaviours and attitudes there before, things escalate for them so that they can make different choices. But we work very closely with the Mental Violence Prevention Programme, with colleagues in education as well. So between the two programmes, I think that the input's invaluable and we hope to see it grow. But I wouldn't like to say there's a rise. I think that we're in this world of social media. It's very concerning. We have people like Andrew Tate, who, does not personify positive role models of what it is to be a man, but is one very powerful influence for young boys.
And do you find that when you're having these interactions, now I know that you've said that the comments from them, but is it the general feeling that you are making a difference?
100%.
That's positive.
100%, yeah. To give boys that safe space to feel safe enough to talk and to challenge in an appropriate way, to support boys to look at things differently, to support boys to relate perhaps what an unhealthy attitude is towards a female that they care about in their life. Absolutely making a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul.
Thanks, Chair. It's the prevention work with the schools. Is that a one-time exercise or was it done outside the school hours?
It's within school. And so it's a 6-week intervention done within the education. Yes, so it's within school time, supported by the schools. It's by invitation from the school that we go in when they've identified pupils that they feel are perhaps of concern that may benefit from that input.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when I look at the figures, St Kenny Girls Academy, Broxburn Academy and Sinclair Academy, they're rather low. Was there any reason? Could you find any reason for that?
We started off giving smaller inputs. Is this the joint input with Police Scotland rather than the boys only? We started off just delivering the input to 1 year. And then, that we felt that there was actually no reason to not invite the 4th years, to not invite the 5th years. So that's possibly the explanation for the lower figures at some schools initially, yes.
The reason I asked why it was, one-time exercise, they're all these catch them young on your mouldy adult. I'm just wondering, this is going to be a continuing programme.
Yes, yeah, definitely a continued programme, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kenna.
Thank you, Chair. It's an excellent, sorry. Can you come back to me?
Yeah, of course.
Give me a wee minute. Sorry, having a survivor of domestic abuse some 5 decades ago in Falkirk, when being a founder member of the Women's Aid in Falkirk at that time, that's when it became. It has come on. I'm just absolutely amazed by the amount of work you're doing. It's phenomenal and it's much, much needed. I do have a few questions.
Okay.
And one question about your boys in school. I know that the impact and feedback from Armadale Academy when you did it with the police was excellent. It was well thought out, and the hope that it would continue to the other years, later years, before they became a man or into college or university. My question there is, I don't know if you have statistics, but it's not only males that should be school males, pupils. Being a counsellor, you hear about lots and lots of things. There's an awful lot of abuse being done to parents from girls. And sometimes they are out of order and they don't know where to go. And even although it's not parental abuse, it's just abuse by that single children. Have you come up against that?
Okay, so the first question was around that it should be both genders that we're presenting with to the police. So just to provide reassurance that that's very much the case. So where the large scale numbers, it's to boys and girls. The boys only is the smaller group work.
Yeah.
And the Empower You is the smaller group work with girls.
How are you?
Empower You. So the family violence, so we do come across that from time to time. So just so that I'm clear what you're asking, so that is when a child is abusing a parent. Yeah, we do come across that. So obviously the definition of domestic abuse is a personal and intimate partner. So, you know, it's different. And some of it might be learned behaviour, some of it might not be. So it would be a different source of support. But abuse is abuse, you know, as far as we are concerned. We would never, you know, it's not uncommon for us to hear, for example, that somebody's older son is perhaps abusing them. And we would never turn somebody away from our services who felt that they would be in need of support, whether that's through the Freedom Programme or one of our other community programmes, because what we find actually is that the principles are applicable to all relationships.
Yeah.
Where there is power and control and hurting and abuse.
I know that it can sometimes lead to domestic abuse between their parents because of how the child is reacting. That's great, as long as there's a wee area in there that the girls can be addressed. The other question I was going to ask was about an emergency situation. You know, you're saying about appointments and face-to-face appointments and port line and referrals. What if it's immediate and you don't have any properties there? What happens then?
So in an emergency situation, if it's a life and death situation, we would always say...
Or just someone, I'll give you an example, someone put out in the street in their jammies, two small kids, standing at a roadside at 12 o'clock at night.
Okay. So at 12 o'clock at night, if they phoned Women's Aid, if they phoned us, they would be directed to contact the Scottish Women's Aid and Arranged Forced Marriage Helpline. And likely that would then go to out of hours, the social work team out of hours. If that happened during the day and they turned up, nowhere to stay, they need a place to stay, we would liaise with what's called the LISA project within DASAT. Now, that's a specialist domestic abuse homeless service. And so we link very, very closely with that project. And we would say, this is a situation. We have a woman here with 2 children. Likely for her, it would be B&B and hotel until a space became available for us or until temporary tenancy came up. And that's the challenge, you know, that we were referring to, because if you put a woman and a couple of children in jammies, in a hotel, there's no facilities for washing their clothes. They can't cook for the wee ones. They can't cook for themselves. So it's very challenging.
Yeah. But nobody's left.
Nobody is left. Absolutely
Nobody's
not.
left.
Absolutely
Thank you.
not.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any comments? Councillor Macaulay.
I just want to say thank you so much for this presentation, but it's the DART, well done. Bringing it to Scotland, that is incredible. And I know that I heard about this previously before it was coming, but it was in the works. So it's really exciting to see that. I think there's an incredible amount of work you're doing. And it's just, when you say Women's Aid, nobody really sees what's under that umbrella, and you cover so much.
Yeah.
And in terms of the work you're doing with boys and girls, which is our future, I think it's incredible. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that feedback.
So from me, just thanks very much for taking the time to come along today. And as Councillor Macaulay has said, people don't realise the work that organisations like you do. I thought I had an idea, but actually I didn't have an idea at all. But I have a much better insight now. In terms of the preventative work, for me, I think that's the key. And whilst obviously you will always pick up work as you start to raise awareness. And I think the preventative work is the way forward to make sure that whilst we need to have immediate support for people, we need to work on that prevention. And I'm glad to see the work that you're doing with our schools. I think it's important, and that we generate a culture that people understand that it's not okay to treat people the way some people treat people. I just hope that continues in terms of that preventative work, and even that we could make a package available so teachers could actually take that forward as part of their wellbeing courses, etc. But thank you. Thanks. So no other comments. So that takes us neatly on to the next agenda item. You're welcome to stay, you're welcome to go, so you'll not be judged either way. So thank you. So item number 9, Safer Neighbourhood Team Performance Community Services Update, and I'm going to pass over to Julie Whitelaw to take us through this report. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform panel members of the Q3 performance from October to December 2025 for the Safer Neighbourhood team and provide a general update on community safety partnership work to support the Community Safety Plan 2025 to 2028. Section D1 provides general background and Section D2 provides an update and analysis of the data as set out in Appendix 1. Section D4 provides an update in regards to transformation and the work that the Safer Neighbourhood team contributes to as set out in the Community Safety Plan 2025 to 28. Appendix 2 provides a general update on the Safer Neighbourhood team and community safety partnership working that has taken place over the reporting period. Chair, the recommendation is to note the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Julie. Councillor Macaulay.
Thanks, Julie. I just wanted to ask, there was a slight increase in terms of visits. Is that due to the cases or the availability of staff to be able to go out and actually record these incidents?
Julie?
Chair, principally it will in relation to the nature of the cases. We obviously do have some challenges with staff and working patterns, and where possible, where it's appropriate to do so and where they consider that the nature of the case deserves it, then they will try to make a visit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Any comments? No. Are we happy to accept the recommendations in the report? That's grand. That takes us on to item number 10, West Lothian HSCP Workforce Plan for 25 to 28. And I'm going to pass over to Lorna Kemp. Welcome, Lorna.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an update to the panel on the development and publication of the new HSCP Workforce Plan for 2025 to 2028, agreed by the Integration Joint Board in September 2025. The Scottish Government requires HSCPs to publish a comprehensive workforce plan every 3 years with annual updates in between. This is the first time the workforce plan has been reported to this particular panel, and this change was to recognise the panel's interest in matters relating to the community justice social work workforce. Workforce planning is a key enabler for delivering strategic priorities across all HSCP services, helping us address workforce challenges, identify opportunities and develop local solutions to ensure a robust, sustainable health and social care workforce across West Lothian. The agreed plan is attached as Appendix 1 to the report, and the plan was developed through comprehensive engagement with staff across the partnership, including senior managers, the IGB Strategic Planning Group, wider partners, and Section 3 of the report provides a brief summary of the engagement carried out with full detail in the plan itself. Plan is intended to add value by complementing and building on the individual workforce plans of both Council and NHS Lothian. The full list of actions identified to deliver on the workforce plan is set out in section 13. The action plan identifies 3 overarching priority areas for the HSCP. Our future workforce is the first work stream, with a focus on attracting young people into health and social care careers. Secondly, a thriving workforce, where we are prioritising the support, development and well-being of our staff. And finally, engaging our staff and partners. And this work stream is around improving how we engage with staff and partners in a meaningful and consistent way. The agreed governance structure to deliver the action plan is included in section 4.2 of the report. In conclusion, development of the new workforce plan for 2025 to 2028 is complete, having undertaken a comprehensive engagement exercise with staff and partners, and the panel is invited to share any comments on the plan. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Lorna. Any questions? Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you for that. I was just wondering, could you expand on what Anne's Law is?
On what, sorry?
Anne's Law, it's on page 18 of the report. It was passed in July 2025.
Yep, thank you.
Sorry. So I suppose Anne's Law came from the pandemic and care homes, and where people were stopped from visiting. So as part of the National Care Service work that was undertaken, that was one of the areas that was worked through. So it was about putting in place a robust structure. But what does that mean, and where you can put in place a person who's delegated from your family to go and attend? So that's really what it kind of covers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Any other questions? Nope. Any comments? I'd just like to say thank you for bringing the report to this PDSP, and it's great in terms of a good read in terms of how we're going to deliver. So thank you. Any other comments? Nope. Are we happy to note the recommendations? That takes us on to item number 11, Environmental Health Trading Standards Performance Q3 of 25-26, and it's over to yourself, Craig.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the purpose of the report is to provide the panel with the update on service performance in Q3 for environmental health and trading standards. Overall performance remains above target. However, you'll see from the report there are a couple of areas of service where performance has dipped in the month of December in 2025. First of these is in D21, which relates to pest control's response to service requests by the due date. This is dipped to red. There are occasional dips below target due to the nature of the service which we deliver and the demand for the service, along with staff resource available. It's particularly driven by the impact of rat and mice calls due to the number of visits that have to be made in terms of treatments for these, which makes scheduling of new work more challenging. December was particularly impacted also by the holiday period and staff availability in that month. In D22, we see another performance indicator which has gone to amber, which is trading standards inquiries completed within 14 days. Again, the dip in December was mainly due to the impact of this holiday period, as performance is generally above target for this indicator, but it can be impacted by various factors which include the complexity of the inquiries which we have to deal with, the responses which we get from other parties and other workload demands within the service. D3 of the report highlights some of the key activities within the service in Q3, and D4 highlights the ongoing challenges in the service which relate to staffing and particularly the inspection backlog within the commercial team in environmental health. However, overall, the service continues to work positively to deliver its best service in the circumstances we find ourselves. Chair, happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Craig. Councillor Macaulay.
Thanks, Craig. I just wanted to ask, in terms of, you mentioned December 2025, but in terms of December the previous year, figures were slightly higher, even given there would be holidays as well.
Yeah, it's a variable, Chair. It's not uniform in that sense, and it is reflective just of the nature of the work. I think particularly at this time, we're seeing a lot of ongoing treatments, which again is making the scheduling of new work more a challenge. That varies month to month depending on how we're getting through work. So there's no continuity from that point of view.
So would we expect the charts on both page 3 and 4 to sort of head back up to the right direction?
Yeah, certainly. So the January figures are back on target for both parts of the service.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
That's grand. Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments? Happy to note the recommendations in the report. Thank you. And that takes us on to item number 14, the work plan, just for noting. Thank you. Thanks very much for your attendance today.